Good morning, everyone. I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're doing good. Um, Yay! Welcome to well, we're almost through now. Thanks for your patience. Week 5, heading into week 6. I think that's right. I think that's right. 6, 7, 8. So there's only 3 weeks left of this thing somehow, which feels a little bit crazy. Um, yeah, I hope you're feeling okay about everything. I hope you're feeling creative still. I know it's a lot of writing and it's a lot of watching and a lot of thinking, and it can be burnout. I think especially in a summer semester where there isn't really like a break built in. So thanks for forging ahead and doing so well and thinking so well and writing so well. I love your analyses, and I even those of you who really haven't found one that you've liked so far. I think it's been great to see why you've been good at articulating why you didn't like it, why it didn't work for you, um, and most of the time acknowledging something that was successful about it, just like uh, suggesting that it wasn't for you. Um, I buy that. There's a lot of great art that I don't like. That's just not for me. But I can acknowledge its greatness. Um, I think Eternal Sunshine. I mean, I love that movie, and but if you didn't like it, I think it's hard not to acknowledge some of what it's doing cinematically as great and directorially. And how about Jim Carrey in that film? Right, like what a turn for him, a kind of a career defining turn for him, and alongside the always great Kate Winslet. So I hope you liked Eternal Sunshine. And if you've watched The Last Black Man in San Francisco at this point, because it's Friday morning, if you've watched The Last Black Man in San Francisco, I hope you liked it too. But um, it probably polarized you more, I would think. And if you haven't watched it yet, I'm gonna try to be not. I won't be spoilery. I mean, I'm just gonna talk about some shots and things like that. But anyway, I hope you dig that one. It's quite strange in a lot of ways, and I also think really, really important. I saw The Last Black Man in San Francisco when it was in theaters, and I saw it at a small theater in Portland where I live, and Portland, Maine. And I was the only one in it when I went to see it. And I was like astounded. It's the first time, it had been the first time in a really long time, and it's the only time in my recent memory that I walked out of a film feeling like wow, that was unbelievable. Like I couldn't, like in terms of how good I thought it was, how different. I think this phrase gets thrown around a lot in art, but I really walked out of that feeling like, man, they do not make movies like that anymore. Like I don't even know how it got greenlit, because the central actor wrote the film, right, and uh, it had a lot to say and did it artfully without sort of like beating you over the head with it. And it was strange and it was colorful, and it invited empathy, even though like I'm I'm white. I don't live in San Francisco. I don't understand believing that something is generationally owed to you and then like have it taken. I don't understand any of that in a concrete sense. Obviously, right? Like that's not my lived experience as an adult white dude, um, who's socioeconomically middle class. Uh, but somehow the movie makes that stuff universal and ubiquitous and invites us all to realize like what our place is in it. I just love it. I think it's so great. That sequence with Mont when he's acting in the attic, and whew, my lord. Um, anyway, I don't want to say too much um, before I sort of like jump into Eternal Sunshine. Also, but except to say I really hope you liked it. Um, and if not, I would understand. Like it's weird. It's super weird. Um, Maybe the weirdest one that we'll watch. Uh, yeah. Okay. I think that next week is Manchester. I have it right in front of me. Hang on. I just want to make sure to do for week 6. Yeah, okay. We're going to watch Manchester by the Sea. So I will talk just for a little bit here about Eternal Sunshine and Last Black Man, but before I do that, I just want to say that Manchester by the Sea is the first film that we'll watch that I think really necessitates sort of like a, I don't like the term trigger warning. I don't like necessarily the term content warning either. I think we're adults, and I think we can go into something, and if it like bothers us, then we can turn it off. And but all of that said, Manchester by the Sea is really hard in certain ways. Like it, I don't mean difficult, like a difficult film to understand. Just not. Um, well, some parts of it, but difficult content. Um, and I can't really tell you because it would be super spoilery to tell you. But know that it's deeply sad if you haven't seen it. Like one of the saddest films I've ever seen, um, and that there are moments where that sadness manifests in a very visual way. It's not violent. It's not grotesque, but it shows you occasionally some images that will shock you with how devastating they are and how real they are and how sad they are. Someone is lamenting in that film, like the central character is lamenting a significant loss, and there are moments when it like depicts his loss. That's about as much as I can say. So I would just say like give yourself time, especially with this film, like to sit down with it in a space where you have like the time and the patience to watch it because it's long, and make sure that you're like in a good mentally emotional space when you watch this one because it's really really sad. Um, this especially that particular moment in it when you see what he's lost is really really sad in how it's depicted, um, and kind of shocking, I would say. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough. If you have seen Manchester before and you don't want to watch it again because you don't feel like being super sad again, then email me, okay, and I'll try to find like a suitable alternative that I think does some of the same things. Um, but I do think Manchester by the Sea is one of the best films in the past 20 years. Um, it I it's I guess it was made within the last 10 years, right? I think it was 2016. Um, but still, for my money, one of the best films of the 21st century. Um, Casey Affleck won the best actor for that film, and lots of other actors in it could have won things. Did Jennifer? Did she? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it had a lot of award buzz, that kind of thing. It's great. It's great, and I hope that you watch it. But yeah, it's just really sad. Okay, all said. What I want to talk about is relative to your cinematic storytelling reading. So for this week, you read, I don't know, like 40 through 60 or something like that. And some of what, toward the end of that, you were reading about was camera work, close-ups, extreme close-ups, things like that. And these are really interesting to me, especially in Eternal Sunshine and also in Last Black Man, for two kind of different reasons. I think that, so Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is directed by Michel Gondry, and he also directed like The Science of Sleep, which is quite a strange film and does some weird things with camera work. Has like some puppets in it and stuff too. Gondry, I think, is always trying to do something surrealistic and dreamlike with his films. Eternal Sunshine is very dreamlike. Science of Sleep is overtly dreamlike. Like it is about dreams, kind of. Yeah, and I think you see that through some of the camera work. Now, the obvious stuff would be like the sequences where like faces are distorted in Eternal Sunshine, or when like Joel goes back to his youth in a memory, and he's like a little kid in his mom's house, and Clem is there, and she's a little kid too, or whatever. Oh no, she's like an adult. Well, in parts of it, she's like a little girl, and in parts of it, she's an adult. But that scene I'm thinking particularly of where Joel's in his mom's kitchen, and he's like under the table and stuff, which you should watch the behind the scenes of that. It's really interesting because it's just shot on like, it's a set with painted backgrounds and like enlarged furniture for Jim Carrey to like be under, but they shot it with the other actors and just did screwy stuff with camera angles, tilt, and the backgrounds they painted. Um, it's interesting. There's not a lot of maybe no CGI in that sequence. Um, they just relied on like perceptive painting of backgrounds, and like there isn't a lot of real prop in that. And once you see the behind the scenes, you go back and you watch it, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a painting. Um, but it doesn't feel like that when you first watch it. It's cool how integrated uh, Jim Carrey as like a large adult man through like camera distortion and background painting can become small in relation to the other actors in the frame, and that's what it is. It wasn't like I think so many contemporary movies when they do something like this, just like I don't know, they Ant-Man the main character, like they just CGI, they superimpose him on a green screen or whatever, and Gondry is not that's not his bag. He's a practical effects guy. There's some CGI in Eternal Sunshine with the distorted faces and stuff, um, but mostly it's like rewinding and fast forwarding of cameras and things like that. Um, you know, practical effects or pseudo practical effects. And like I said, in his other film, The Science of Sleep, he uses like puppets and things. But what I want to talk about, particularly, is the use of extreme close up from Van Siegel's book in Eternal Sunshine, because there are these moments when we're really close on people's faces in Eternal Sunshine. And there's a lot of sequences where that takes place in beds in Eternal Sunshine. Whether because it's Joel and Clem being intimate, or whether it's because of Joel being in his bed in his apartment, and the guy's there erasing his memories, where you're seeing like just his face in the helmet. There's a lot of close up in this film on faces. Kirsten Dunst, when she realizes well, a lot of things. I guess I can be spoilery, right? Like you've all seen it. But when she realizes that like she's reliving what she's already lived with what's his face, the guy who like owns the practice. A lot of close-ups, but I am particularly drawn to this extreme close-up of Joel and Clem in bed in a memory of Joel's, where they're like fooling around sort of, but they're under covers, right? And the extreme close-up thing you don't have any choice but to use extreme close-up in that sequence, because they're so close to each other and the quarters are so confined, because they're supposed to be like literally under blankets together, and so you see these like enormous shots of their faces. And there's one point at which I think Clem is saying in Joel's memory that like he looks at her crotch or something like that. So there's this this shot of her crotch, because we're like through Joel's memory, right? Not hers, but she does like echo in it, sort of, and the memory version of her like speaks to Joel and things like that. It's such an interesting take and a really hard directorial one for me, that I think Gondry pulls off so well, because you have no room for error. Like everything in that sequence has to be exactly what you want it to be and nothing else, because you have about this much space for leeway outside of the thing that you're shooting. Where in like Terrence Malick films or something, where everything is a gigantic wide landscape shot, I mean, there's a lot of just like inherent beauty in that. And I'm not trying to be reductive of his cinematography. It's amazing. I love Terrence Malick. Like Days of Heaven is one of the most beautiful movies ever shot. But it's all extreme wide shots where like lots of stuff peripherally makes it beautiful. Like just your random extra actors like walking and doing something, or like a bird flies through it that you didn't anticipate or something like that. It's really different than putting the onus completely on the director and the actor in an extreme close-up shot where every movement of the actor's face matters, everything the director tells the actor to do matters, because otherwise it's not going to convey the thing you want it to convey. Quite unlike landscape shots. Now, this is also, as Van Sigel tells us in cinematic storytelling, sort of contingent on what's going on in the background. Because when you have like this much space outside of the actor, what that is really important. And in Eternal Sunshine, under the covers, it's like light and dark. There's like lightness and darkness. There's a little bit of light being let in from the sheet. I mean, you have to have some light or you wouldn't be able to see them. That kind of thing. But let's talk for a second about The Last Black Man in San Francisco, because when you have close-ups on in this film, even extreme close-up, what you have is very, very colorful backgrounds. And this is a film maybe more than Eternal Sunshine, although Eternal Sunshine also has some beautiful large shots, but usually not that large. Like, I'm thinking of Clem and Joel when they're like on the ice, when they're in the winter and stuff like that. I mean, there's some wide shots in there, but usually you're not more than like 20 feet from Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet or whatever. And in Last Black Man, you often have like extremely wide shots of Jimmy like skateboarding through a street or something like that. But they're always super saturated, right? Like really, really, really colorful. Let's look at the reasons and the difference behind that. And I'm not just talking about the color theory part of the book, because color theory is something that always that I take my issues with or whatever. I think it's done wrong a lot. I think people misappropriate value to it a lot. But there's something quite beautiful about the color palette of The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and it shows up even in these close shots, where the easier directorial move is to make it like black in the background or just like lightness in the background. Where is it darkest in The Last Black Man in San Francisco? Interiors. The interior of the house that Jimmy believes is his, and the interior of Mont's shack or whatever that he shares with, it's like his grandfather. Like the interiors are not well lighted. They're dark. And the exteriors of that film are like bright and red and orange. They are saturated, and they are on the red side of the color spectrum, like almost always. 'Cause it's San Francisco. It's sunny, it's beautiful, it's painted, it's artful, all these things. Except for the people who are living there. And then all of a sudden, it's darkness. And so when you're outside and you get extreme close-up in that film, you get red and orange and color, lightness. When you're close-up inside, darkness, interior, a sense that like something doesn't belong here. But also, I would ask you, is there a sense in those outside up-close shots that something doesn't belong here either? You know, like, does The Last Black Man, being the title of the film, mean something juxtaposed against lots and lots of bright colors and things? When we look at like all of the central cast is black, or folks of color or whatever, and is there an intentional thing going on Jimmy's part, where he says, does this belong in the city that's like for white people, by white people, because of generational wealth? We begin to ask all those questions like, who's art for? Who is architecture for? Who is infrastructure for? And maybe only through colors. Because there's a guy here that doesn't look like he belongs. Except he's convinced that he does. Right? Like, that's the enormous beauty of this film. He's like a war being waged to say, like, actually, this is mine. And this is mine more than it's yours. But not in this, like, overt social justice grandstanding sense. It's in a human sense. That's what he's doing so beautifully here, right? Like, it would be kind of cheap to go the other route. And here he's just saying, like, nah, man, like, I'm a human too, and, like, that's what was promised to me. And, gosh, I can't, it's just so beautiful the way that, like, he seems to blend in wideness. He seems to be ostracized or something in the close-up shots. Whereas, like, in Eternal Sunshine, it's quite strange because it's 50% of the movie or more is like Joel's memories of something that are subjective and are his. So, like, of course he fits in, right? Like, it's all his memory. But then that movie too is asking lots of questions about, like, who belongs to whom, what belongs to whom, whose right is it to take something away from another person. It's just not talking about architecture. It's talking about human relationships. Quite interesting. It'd be a cool juxtaposition to write about, right? In either film or both films, like what's being taken away from whom and by whom? I don't know. Food for thought. Look at the close-ups in both films versus the big wide landscape shots. Tell me what it evokes. Okay, food for thought. Thanks everyone. I look so forward to reading what you think about this one. Appreciate you. Keep churning on your essays. I'll have feedback for parts 2 and 3 for you by the end of the weekend, and then you'll have turned in 4, so I'll get right to work on that. I'm excited about what you're doing. Truthfully, yeah. Okay, more soon. Check out Manchester by the Sea, but do approach it with like patience and definitely, like I said, time to sit down and like to sit with that one, because it's hard. It's a hard one. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Appreciate you.